Alright, this is my presentation on pages 44 to I believe 47. I couldn't do the screen sharing and record to my Wi-Fi, so I will have to do it through here. And this is my presentation to the class. Note presentation. Note presentation. Let me put it bigger. Alright, note presentation. Now, alright, conducting experiments. So, following lab procedures carefully is essential to the successful procedure would have allowed outcome of experiments. Too many variables to be introduced. And for example, if the control is changed, there is no longer a standard against which to measure. Then the third point is, it will not matter how precisely you measure if you do not keep accurate records. Records of your observations are of two basic types of numerical and descriptive. Numerical observations, also called quantitative observations, are expressed in terms of numbers. This is second slide on conducting experiments, and it says, when you take a measurement, you are taking a numerical observation. As you record numerical observations, remember that numbers will be meaningless without units and a description of what you measured. So, for example, things using like charts, tables, things like that to help record and organize your data. And the second type of observation is called descriptive observation. It is also called qualitative observations. Descriptions of what is happening that cannot be measured in numbers are often as important as numerical data. Descriptive observations may refer to such as factors as colors, textures, and odor. And this is what is part of an experiment. So each change made in an experiment is called a variation. For example, in every experiment there are available which can be changed and one that can't be changed. So the one that can be changed is basically what is affected by the one that you have changed. The variables are called independent and dependent variables. There is also something called a hypothesis, which is a prediction before the experiment. Carrying out their plan by conducting the experiment is the next step in the scientific method. So, there's always a hypothesis before an experiment. So, yeah. And then I will go to the next one once it loads. Sorry, it's kind of freezing up. Alright, how to measure experiments. So when measuring experiments, things can be measured by weight or mass or how much there is of something, like milliliters, like how long something is or how much of something. And you may need to do the experiment more than once, so you can see if the experiment is consistent or not. You can measure with graphs, times, or how many, or of how many times something is, or temperature. Doing research and conducting experiments involve action. Evaluating the results mainly requires thinking. You must read through your data, empirical observations, and notes. Look for patterns, trends, common factors, changes, and questions. Look for answers to the questions and support or against your hypothesis. So your hypothesis may not always be right, but you will get the answer at the very end of an experiment. As you go through the steps of the scientific method, keep in mind this is not a linear process. And what it means by that, it won't always be a straight line. There may be zigzags. And sometimes a step can be skipped. Sometimes more information is needed. Alright, doing research. Number 2. This is the last slide. Testing hypothesis often shows answering one question or solving one problem raises other questions or creates other problems. This means going back to the previous step. The final step in the scientific method is to report your results, like I said before, either in a table or a graph. You must put your evaluation in writing so you can share it with others. When writing conclusions, students often repeat their data and observations. This is not drawing a conclusion. A conclusion analyzes and applies data. For instance, you might describe ways you could apply the principle discovered in the experiment to other food situations. A conclusion will always answer how, what, where, when, or why. It describes what the data and observations mean. So this was my presentation. Again, I couldn't screen record due to my Wi-Fi issue. And yeah, this is for class 1A, and my name is Gilberto Alvarado.